We are here on behalf of Canadians for a nuclear weapons convention to announce that 505 recipients of the Order of Canada are calling on the Government of Canada to support new global efforts to achieve a ban on nuclear weapons. Specifically, we call on all member states of the United Nations, including Canada, to endorse and begin negotiations for a nuclear weapons convention as proposed by the UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon in his 5-point plan for nuclear disarmament. In his opening statement to the extraordinary 47-nation Washington summit last week, U.S. President Barack Obama dramatized world attention on nuclear dangers by warning that just an apple-sized container of plutonium could set off a nuclear bomb that could kill hundreds of thousands of innocent people. A catastrophe for the world, he said, is waiting to happen. With nuclear power plants coming online in many countries, the risk of nuclear terrorism is going up, not down. President Obama recognized that the summit was, as he said, only one part of a broader, comprehensive agenda that the United States is pursuing, including reducing our nuclear arsenal and stopping the spread of nuclear weapons, an agenda that will bring us closer to our ultimate goal of a world without nuclear weapons. Now, the continued possession of more than 20,000 nuclear weapons by the U.S., Russia, the UK, France, and China, along with India, Pakistan, Israel, and North Korea, must be dealt with if global cooperation to reduce nuclear dangers is to be achieved. This unprecedented action that we're announcing today by members of the Order of Canada calls on Canada to join a growing demand for work to start now on a nuclear weapons convention. This would be a global, verifiable treaty on the prohibition and elimination of nuclear weapons. It will take time to build up agreement on such a treaty, although a model nuclear weapons convention has been a UN document for more than a decade. There is wide public support around the world for such a ban. It is vital that governments at the May Review Conference of the Non-Proliferation Treaty seize this new moment of opportunity and commit to preparatory work. Far from being premature, it is urgent that work start now to prevent the 21st century from turning into a two-class world of nuclear haves and have-nots. At the Washington summit, the Canadian government announced that it would ship highly enriched uranium, spent fuel from the Chalk River nuclear site back to the U.S. That set a good example, along with Canada's effort to help Mexico convert its weapons-grade fuel to a lower level and strengthen the G8 global partnership to safely dismantle nuclear materials in Russia. But these moves are insufficient in addressing the real problem. Canada must also strengthen in a substantive way the Non-Proliferation Treaty, which calls for nuclear disarmament negotiations and non-proliferation measures. There must now be a visible intent to reduce nuclear dangers through the elimination of nuclear weapons, which would... we're asking Canada to work with like-minded countries. This is not a question of working alone. First of all, President Obama has opened up a whole new moment in history with his commitment made at the Prague Statement of 2009 to lead the world into a nuclear weapons-free world. And since then, he has convened, for the first time, a summit meeting of the UN Security Council devoted to nuclear weapons, which had unanimously adopted a resolution tightening up the rules of transfer of nuclear materials. He then had the U.S. and Russia negotiate a new START agreement that reduced their nuclear weapons, their strategic nuclear weapons, down to 1,550 each. And then last week, he convened a global summit on nuclear dangers, where he had 47 world leaders, including the leaders of India, Pakistan, and Israel that are not members of the Non-Proliferation Treaty. So President Obama is breaking through new ground here in an effort to lay the basis for a global agreement on the end of nuclear weapons. He cannot do this alone. He has much opposition even in his own country through political forces, and certainly the military-industrial complex. And as he has said, he needs support. So who better to offer support than those countries that are friends of the United States, of which there are many? And as the United States' closest neighbor and longtime partner in many security efforts, I believe that it is a responsible act as well as an opportunity for Canada to get behind the Obama agenda, leading the world to a nuclear weapons free. None of us here is so unsophisticated as to think that nuclear weapons can be eliminated overnight. They cannot be. But the work can begin immediately. And moreover, if it does not begin immediately, then the status quo that we now have will prevail. What is the status quo? The status quo is more than 20,000 nuclear weapons held by 9 countries, with other countries wanting to achieve them. That is not a formula for security in the 21st century. And so it is certainly in Canada's interest, it's the interest of every single Canadian to fend off the forces that are leading to the development of nuclear weapons. We need to have the Canadian government actively work at the Non-Proliferation Treaty Review Conference in May to start preparatory work for a nuclear weapons convention, which would be a global treaty to ban nuclear weapons. There is a global treaty to ban chemical weapons. There's a global treaty to ban biological weapons. By every aspect of logic, there should be and there must be a treaty to ban nuclear weapons. And that's why we think that the Canadian government is in an opportune position. We have had the opportunity of speaking with the Prime Minister and with party leaders, and I believe that in the political realm here in Ottawa, and by extension in Canada, there is a mood shift taking place. There is a growing interest. And the fact that we now have 505 members of the Order of Canada, the prestigious body of Canadians from every walk of life, from all over our country, who have come together on this single issue of asking the government to play an active role on working for a nuclear weapons convention, is a signal moment. And finally, what Canada can do is to increase its work on verification. Verification has the political and the scientific work that Canada has done in verification over the years has been a tremendous contribution to world security. We need to do more of that now. We need to do more work in the whole aspect of the criminality, laying the basis of law for the end of nuclear weapons. There's active work waiting to be done that Canada can do with other like-minded countries, Egypt, Ireland, Mexico, New Zealand, Sweden, South Africa, Germany, Belgium. Those are countries